Hey guys, this is homework help for the free fall up and down problems, aka the volcano worksheet. So I wanted to talk about these real quick because we commonly have questions about a couple of them. The first one is about the volcano. You might make yourself a note to do this one for sure because there's one on the test that's just like it. Okay, so our volcano is going to spit ash into the air. The ash is going to go straight up and come straight back down. And it tells you that it throws the ash up in the air with a speed of 625 meters per second. So that means that VYI is 625 meters per second, right? And then we know some other givens. Based on the idea of symmetry, we can assume that VYF is negative 625 meters per second. We can assume that Vy at the peak is equal to 0, and we know that A is negative 9.8 because this volcano is on the Earth. Okay, so how high could this volcanic plume have risen is looking for this, right, which is a delta Y. Okay, so we have VYI, VYF, A, delta Y. I don't have time anywhere in my list, and I don't want to take the time to find that if I don't need it. Okay, so I'm going to choose the equation that doesn't have time in it, which is VYF equals VYI squared plus 2A delta Y. Okay, and then I need to think about where am I actually going in order to find the maximum height. Okay, well, I'm going to start down here at the base, and I need to end here at the max height. So for VY peak, or for VYF, I'm going to use the 0. I'm going to pretend like the ash just stopped at the peak and stayed there. That's going to be what I use for my final velocity because I need maximum height. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 0 for VYF. I'm using my peak height. 0 squared, of course, is just 0. And then I have 625 meters per second for VYI. I need to square that. Plus 2 times negative 9.8 times delta Y. Okay, so step 1 is to go ahead and square your 625. And that is 390,625. And then I need to do 2 times negative 9.8, which is negative 19.6. Still times an unknown y. Okay, I'm working towards getting y by itself. So next step is to subtract the 390,000 from both sides. So now I have negative 390,625 equal to negative 19.6 meters per second squared times delta y. Divide both sides by negative 19.6 to get y by itself. And that gives me my answer. My answer is very large, but think about how fast. 625 meters per second is really, really, really fast. So this volcanic plume should have an extremely high max height. Okay? So that's example 1. And then second example I want to just give you a hint on to get started is this baseball one. So it tells you that a batter hits a high pop-up. The ball remains in the air for 6 seconds. How high does it rise? Okay, so we've got our ball. It's going straight up and down. Let's think about what we know. We know total time is 6 seconds. We know Vy at the peak is 0, and we know A is negative 9.8 meters per second squared. And then the question is, how high does it rise? And so I am looking for this, delta Y again. Okay, so if you look at your equations, you're going to notice that every single one requires a VYI. And what do you notice here? We don't know VYI, right? They didn't tell it to us. We also don't know VYF, so we can't assume anything. But we do know Vy at the peak. So let's treat Vy at the peak as if it was the height, or I mean as if it was the initial starting place. So we're going to treat it like the ball started up here and just fell. Okay? Now if we do that, we have to cut our time in half because we're only doing the second half of the fall. And so we want to use time 1/2 here. Okay? And now I have Vyi, I have A, I have time, and I need delta y, and so I'm going to choose the equation that doesn't have Vyf in it, which is delta y equals Vyi t plus 1/2 a t squared. Delta y is my unknown. Vyi, again, is the peak, right? So that's going to be a 0. So I can basically ignore that. 0 times any time is 0. So then I have 1/2 times negative 9.8 meters per second squared times 3 seconds squared. And I want to make sure I use 3 instead of 6 because I'm starting in the middle and falling. Okay, so that Vy peak is a super helpful number because it can be used for initial velocity or final velocity. It kind of just depends on what you need. My strong suggestion is to draw out your problem and label it with what you have, so then you can think about, before you start solving, where did I start and where am I finishing for this problem? And that will help out with these a whole lot. If you have questions, reach